Hello, dear viewers, you are on the channel Life Cucumber Brick. Good mood to you, and enjoy listening. Katy had to move to the capital to earn money. She was from a small town where she was educated and lived only with her mother. Because of her age, the elderly woman was in various pains and could no longer run a household. She constantly needed money for medical treatment. So her daughter went to earn money. Even though she was already 25 years old, letting her daughter go alone to a huge city was a difficult experience for her mother. Katy hit on the prospects. She thought moving would solve all her problems. The metropolis stunned the provincial girl with its scope, noise, and development. Life was boiling in it and didn't stop for a minute. A crowd of people passed by and startled the girl. Brightly colored baubles with amazing things beckoned and enticed her to try them on and buy them. Prices bite, so the girl hesitated to buy anything from the boutiques. Katy has an economics degree and a red diploma under her belt. She proved herself to be hardworking and meticulous in her studies. She was not distracted by boyfriends and partying during her time as a student. She had time on her hands to take care of her aging mother, which could not be neglected. The provincial girl had no work experience in her field, so she had a hard time finding a job. She bypassed many offices and banks, but everywhere she received refusals and mocking looks. As if she were the first such fool in the capital, where everyone was just waiting for her. Katy was already desperate to get a foothold, and suddenly good luck smiled on her. A small branch of a bank approved her candidacy. The boss resisted, but his deputy Oscar insisted on giving the girl a chance. Don't be so hard on young people, otherwise young professionals won't choose banking. Let's give it a chance. Okay, in a week of internship, let her prove herself. His boss reluctantly agreed. Oscar took an excited Katy out of the office and congratulated her on her appointment. Katy, don't be frightened. It's not just you. We need experienced professionals who are willing to work hard. We need you to do your best to prove that you are worthy of the job. You'll see the staff will soften up and accept you. Thank you very much. I won't let you down. All right. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., no delays. But no matter how hard Katy tried, her colleagues still looked down on her and made hurtful jokes at her. The girls in the office sat stern. The well-groomed, shapely ones in uniform and in heels could give a head start to the stewardesses. And the provincial girl was not interested in anything but her papers. Everyone sat over them, bent over, checking numbers and data. Katy had not yet learned that in the capital appearance plays an important role. Let you be late, not submit reports on time, but behind a pretty face and chest neckline, the bosses will forgive minor transgressions. But the girl remained a gray mouse, no new clothes, no makeup. She just braided a tight bun out of her hair, put on her shabby clothes, and went to work. The only person who treated Katy with respect was Oscar. He often caught the inexperienced employee in frustration and sentenced her that everything would be all right. She was already as good as half the current staff in her skills. There's nothing to hold their noses for, and you don't get upset. The bosses are pleased with you. Just do not stop. You should always strive upwards. Gradually, encouragement from the deputy chief became habitual and natural. But at one point, everything changed. He no longer perceived a junior colleague as a mere employee of the firm. The man began to make explicit signs of attention to Katy. One day, he invited the girl for a walk in the capital. That's enough poring over papers. We need to relax. Come on, I'll show you the main beauties of the city. You've been here 3 months, and you've missed all the excitement. Katy was embarrassed by the display of such concern on the part of her superiors. She was naive and assumed that everything was going just fine. How could she refuse a walk or dinner to such a wonderful man with a good heart? Flowers and gifts from him the girl accepted with the same sense of gratitude, as if she could not reject the manifestation of his feelings, for in many ways she owed him. After all, if Oscar hadn't put in a good word for her, she would have had to return to her hometown. And now she was living a modest life, but she could send a portion of her salary to her mother in need. Soon Katy was transferred to the loan department. She dreaded the position, but she carried on accordingly and cross-checked customer data several times to make sure she didn't get confused anywhere and get the job done right. One day she was approached by a man who had a good credit history. But the bank employee suspected something was amiss. Everything was too perfect for a man of such appearance. The client immediately seemed to her somehow connected with criminality, so she hesitated to approve his request. In addition, the amount he was asking for was $5 million, which was not a small sum for the average citizen. "I'm sorry, but we cannot approve your request for a loan. Try another bank," she told the man, but Oscar walked by and heard their conversation. He immediately looked at the outraged man's documents and looked angrily at the employee. "What right did you have to refuse our esteemed client? He has a cleaner history than most of our borrowers, which shows that he is a conscientious citizen. A year old in New York and already so arrogant. Make it out." "Yes, accept my apologies," said Katy. "You will have to wait a little while. The paperwork will take some time." After the transaction, the joyful client walked away with a large sum of money. But soon it turned out that his documents were fake and mediocrely executed. The scammer was so confident of success that he didn't even bother to check the original documents. Katy went into a stupor upon hearing this news. She couldn't even cry, she felt so depressed. Her superiors immediately called the employee to the carpet. The man shouted, slammed his fists on the table, waved the forged documents in front of her nose, but could not get what he wanted, could not crack the girl for collusion with the scammer. "So you're going to pay the loan yourself, and no tricks. You'll have to work for a very long time, and for a pittance. Most of your paycheck will go to pay off the loan. You should be glad they didn't involve the police, or you wouldn't have got off so easy." Katy swore and swore she had nothing to do with the criminal deal. Rushed to Oscar to confirm her initial denial to the crook that he himself had approved the loan. But the man only pushed her away from him and called her a filthy liar. He didn't even look at the employee again, rebuking her for wanting to make him look guilty of his own incompetence. The bank where Katy worked was a commercial one, so it was impossible to hope for a long write-off. The girl didn't know what to do or how to live her life. She was made out to be a criminal. Now no one in the office would talk to her unnecessarily, and the jokes became even more hurtful and meaner. One day, Katy caught up with Oscar in the hallway and jumped out to meet him while no one in the office saw them. "Oscar, why are you doing this to me? You're the one who insisted on the deal. How am I to live? Where to get so much money? I'll never pay you back. Leave me alone. Stupid, you should have thought of your own head, who to take out a loan. Don't come near me again, or I'll report you to the police and tell them about all your shady dealings." What a martyr you are. For Katy, the deception on the part of the one who had supported her in this city was a severe blow. There was not a single thought in her head. There was no hope for justice. After all, who would listen to her? At best, they would simply not listen, and at worst, they would make her answer to the law. Then the girl decided that she could no longer bear such a fate. A lifetime of miserable living to pay off a debt. She was not ready for that. The best way to end all her problems and pain in one fell swoop was to quit her life. She climbed the stone railing of the bridge to jump into the murky, cold waters and had already put her foot over the abyss when a car pulled up beside her. Katy clung to the railing of the bridge, startled by the loud scraping of tires on the pavement. A man in his 30s approached behind her, and without speaking, sharply yanked her toward him, taking advantage of the girl's procrastination. "What are you, crazy? Where have you gone to? This is not the way. Why did you do this? I don't want to live anymore." Katy howled and began to beat her rescuer's chest. He squeezed her in his arms and comforted her for a long time, her cold, frail body in his coat. "But cry, sweetheart. It will get better. Tell me what happened to you. What problems do you have? Maybe I can help." But the girl remained stubbornly silent and continued to sob, clinging to Frank. He worked for the police and had the skills to talk to anyone, so he used every known method to get Katy to open up. He himself could use an understanding interlocutor to get his point across. The man's wife had recently left him, a difficult divorce. He was responsible for his work, but his woman didn't like it. Always on business trips, ambushes on secret missions, which he did not talk about. And what about her? No male attention, no gifts and spontaneous visits to beautiful places. The woman could not accept the loneliness and began to invite other men. However, long hide the existence of communication from her husband, she could not. And when Frank learned the truth, he threw a scandal, promised to put her all her lovers, and in the end, the divorce. The man suggested that the rescued stranger sit somewhere quiet so she could recover. He ordered her some herbal tea and food to help her body calm down and recover from the stress. That's how an acquaintance developed between them. Not immediately, but Katy made contact with a handsome rescuer who listened carefully and asked precise questions. After the conversation, Frank gave the girl a ride home. The next evening, he came to see her again. That's how their friendship began. Katy had no one else in town, and she didn't want to meet anyone unfriendly. She already had enough workload in the banks. She worked for a pittance, and she also had to listen to a portion of humiliating censure every day. At the end of the day, it was nice to spend some time with Frank and distract herself over a home-cooked meal or watching a comedy movie. Eventually, Frank began courting Katy, and she didn't mind. One evening, a serious conversation took place between the lovers. Katy confessed why she was going to kill herself at the time. "Why did you keep quiet for so long?" Frank jumped up from his seat. "I can't just leave it at that. I need your testimony in writing. Just don't forget anything, okay?" He kissed her forehead reassuringly. "I promise you we'll get those crooks out in the open." The investigation uncovered all of Oscar's background. He turned out to be a gambler and bet on horse racing and various gambling games. Because of his addiction, the man ran into a lot of money in front of serious people and recently paid off a debt. The money to pay it off was obtained by his accomplice using Katy. Frank came to the head of the bank and laid out all the facts and evidence, not against his deputy. He immediately began to cooperate with the investigation in order not to be implicated in a crime. Scared Oscar immediately surrendered an accomplice. Now both cheaters face time in prison and damages to the bank and Katy. She transferred the large payoffs she received to her mother for medical treatment. Relieved of her debt, Katy transferred to another branch of the bank, away from her evil colleagues. She was happy that everything was resolved and very grateful to her man. The lovers decided to move in together and were soon going to get married. And before that, they were going to go to the village to meet her mother. If you like the story, please support me with a thumbs up button. It's just one click for you, but it means a lot to me. Thank you.